All right, hello, and welcome to the daily update, my 1000 days challenge. This is day 526. So let's get things started. All right, first and foremost, the balance remained the same, no change. I actually did take two more trades in terms of a long setup for experimental trade setup. So yeah, definitely, even though the market looks to be so bearish, especially for crypto market itself, but I still do see potential long setup and I'm still entering it. As for short setup, because it was tentatively a lot more bearish yesterday, I didn't see a very nice short setup, so I didn't enter any. So I'll update accordingly the balance after this. But if we look in terms of a weekly update itself on the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, things still looks to be relatively healthy. Of course, S&P 500 looks to be a lot healthier in comparison because on the weekly chart, you can see that the pullback wasn't in any way significant, I would say. So yeah, you can look on the weekly chart itself, you can see that, yeah, it's really not very significant over here. So we could still have very much further pullback towards the $4,500 or $4,600 region and still remains very healthy if you're comparing it to the October 2020 itself or even towards the June of 2020 itself. So if actually such a large pullback happened towards the 4,000 region itself, I'll be definitely very keen to add in terms of more wise. All right, and moving on in terms of Nasdaq wise, even though we break below the key support over here, which is definitely a first of a bearish sign. So bear in mind that next week itself, we could see further bearish momentum to retest this 50 simple moving average. But overall, trend still looks to me to be healthy because even you can see here, falls over here, found support over there, over here, we also did fall over here, and then we continue towards the upside. So nothing to be too concerned about in my opinion. In fact, a retracement towards the 50 simple moving average on the weekly chart or even below here to the 14,000 region itself is to me a very healthy sign. And in no any other way would I see it as a bearish in that sense. So even from the peak to here, it will just be a 15% drop. And even if we do drop further to the next support itself, it's just a 23% drop itself. And there will be values that I'll be very keen to add in terms of lump sum for long-term investment itself. And for ASHR, definitely we do see potential retracement towards the downside. You can see a very potential ABCD or descending triangle kind of formation over here on the weekly chart, definitely a potential bearish sign. So if we do break over this key support region over this $37 region itself, we could potentially be seeing a 36 to even the $35 region itself. But of course, like I say, you see over chart here, the gap is quite big, but in terms of dollar value, isn't really a lot. So definitely I'm not looking for a short, but we could potentially be seeing a potential 7% or even a 10% drop, and even a very large drop could go to 15 towards the 20% drop itself towards the strong support region over here itself. So nothing to be too concerned about in my opinion. The key thing would be to look at how K will perform if the ASHR and S&P 500 were to drop, simply because they have already dropped very drastically. And you look in terms of the top over here, $100 will actually drop 66% of it. So definitely a very sharp distinct drop itself. So yep, that's something to bear in mind. So tentatively, I do see that the bottom could potentially be here coming soon, because generally when the market were to drop itself, it could drop perhaps to even the 80% range, in which case you'll be seeing around the $18 or $20 region itself, or potentially the 70% mark would be near the $30 region itself, which is already sort of already there. So let's see how things goes, but definitely a good region to add if you're looking in terms of adding for midterm position itself in the next 2 to 5 years itself. All right, and finally for Bitcoin itself, after taking the short and closing up my position itself, I'm not looking for any trade in particular. We did form a bearish market structure, but bearing in mind that short-term wise, you may see a bearish market structure. As you can see very nicely over here, high, a high, a low, and potentially lower low close over here. But more importantly, you look over here, you also could be closing below this key support region itself, which shift the market structure itself. But looking in terms of overall wise, we still have this very strong support at least 30 to 32K region itself, in which case if we do have a very strong bounce over there, we could perhaps bearishly speaking, we could form a bearish head and shoulder pattern. Bullishly speaking, we could form a double bottom and continue towards the upside. So it's anybody guess. Let's see how things goes about in that sense. So for me on the 4-hour chart, I'll be waiting for a clearer setup because right now it looks to be a potential bounce could happen in the coming 1 to 2 days over the weekend or in the coming week ahead. But if that doesn't happen and consolidation happen over here, then I'll be looking for a short setup. But until consolidation happen or pullback happen itself, I will not be entering any setup based on the 4-hour and daily chart itself. Otherwise, that's more or less about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop by your comments below, or I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.